covering the second section of Ishopanishad. The first invocation, introduction invocation, mantra 1, 2, 3. We covered that is the first section of Ishopanishad. Living in harmony with God, Ishavasyan principle. Who follows that? What is the destination? Who don't follow? What is the destination? Second section is when a pure devotee, Mahabhagavat Vaishnava, when he sees this world, what is his vision? So, mantra 4, mantra 5, they speak about how Lord is unsurpassable, he is Swarat. And mantra 5 speaks about the contradictory qualities of the Lord, how Lord is having inconceivable potency. So mantra 4 and 5 speaks about that. And mantra 6 and 7 speaks about how Lord is all pervading and how Mahabhagavat pursues the Lord. That is what we discussed in mantra 6 and 7. So the last mantra of this section 2, the vision of Mahabhagavat is the wonderful qualities of the Lord, extraordinary qualities of the Lord. So mantra 4 speaks about unsurpassable Lord. That Lord is told as Tat. And then 5 speaks about inconceivable Lord. There also they mentioned is Tat only. That means it's something, absolute truth, supreme absolute truth. There is no mention of he or she. And therefore, then how that supreme absolute truth is all pervading, that is pursued by Mahabhagavat. That is 6 and 7. But mantra 8 specifically speak about the qualities of that supreme absolute truth. Therefore, mantra 8 speaks about the qualities of the supreme absolute truth and extraordinary qualities of it. So that is the explanation of the acharyas regarding till now what we have discussed. So let's try to, I'll just try to project now. Mantra. Eight. I think all of you are able to see this one.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Yes, Prabhu.
So we'll try to recite this in a different meter. Mantra 8. Mantra 8. This is Jagati meter. This is 4 lines of 12 syllables each. So in between, I think mantra, one other mantra was in different meter. I think that was mantra 5. Yes. Not mantra 5. Mantra 4, I think so. Was in different meter. Yes, that was Trishtubhya. Anejadekam Manasojaviyo. That was the different meter. Otherwise, all the mantras till now what we discussed is in Anushtupa. Okay. So you just recite this. This is in a prose form. There is no meter for it. If you don't want to recite in the meter, then there will be music will not be, chandas will not match for it. So let's see. But for every chandas, there is a particular meter. Saparya chupram akyam avranam asnaviram shuddham apapa viddham kavir manishi paribu swayambur yata tato ratan vedada chashvatibhya samebhya. So here in English what we are reciting is, it's a culmination of many Sanskrit verses. So this Chashvatibhya Samabhya is actually, this is actually Shashvatibhya Samabhya. Shashvat Vastu. We say na Shashvat and Ashashvat. So therefore it's a mixture of culmination of 2-3 verses. Therefore it while recitation, Vedadhach merges with Shashvatibhya. Vedadat merges Shashvatibhya and becomes Sandhi called as Vedadat Shashvatibhya Samabhya. So I'll recite again 2 more times. Saparya Chukram Akyam Avranam अस्नावीर्यं शुद्धम् अपापविद्धं कविर्मनसि परिभू स्वयंभू यथा तथा यतो रतान् व्यदत्ता चाश्वत्तिभ्य समभ्य स्वपर्याक् शुक्रम् आख्यायम् आवरणम् अस्नावीर्यं शुद्धम् अपापविद्धम् कविर्मनसि परिभू स्वयंभूर् यथा तथा यतो रतान् व्यददात् चाश्वत्तिभ्य समभ्य. Yes, some devotees can raise hands and I'll call out so that you can recite this one. Somebody's eager.
Yeah.
Okay, we have Vanilla Mataji can start. Then we after that we have Shirisha Mataji. Then after that we have Subura. All three of you can recite one by one.
Saprayaga Chukram Akayam Avarnam Asnaviram Suddham Apapaviddham Kavir Manisi Paribhu Swayambhur Yatha Tatyatorthan Vyadadach Shastibhya Samabhyaha.
Okay, good enough. Next, Shirisha Mataji, we can recite.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Saparyaga Shukram Akhayam Avranam Asnaviram Sudham Apapavidham Kavir Manisi Paribhu Swayambhur Yadha Tatyato Ratan Vyadadhak Chashvatibhya Samabhya. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Saha Paryagat Sukram Akayam Avranam Asnaviram Sukram Apapavidham Kavim Manishi Paribhu Swayambhur Yada Tadyata Adhan Vyadada Sasvatibhya Samabhya.
Yes, Saraswati Mataji, you can also recite. You're also raising hand. So last.
Yes, Prabhuji. Saparyaga Shukram Akayam Avranam Ashnaviram Shuddham Apapaviddham Kavir Manishi Paribhu Swayambhur Yata Tatyato Ratan Vyadadak Shashvatibhya Samabhya. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so we have here Saparyak Shukram. It's actually Shukram. It is called as in recitation, it comes as Shukram. Saparyak Shukram Akayam Avranam Asnaviryam Shuddham Apapaviddham. The first two lines of this verse, it speaks about how Lord transcends all faults. Saparyag, Sa is that person. Word to word meaning. Paryagat, must know in fact. Saparyagat Shukram. So one must know in fact. What? Shukram, the omnipotent. So what is Shukram? In translation, it comes as Shukram when we recite in Sanskrit. So it's a combination of two sandhis, two words. It becomes a sandhi. Saparyagat Shukram Akayam Avranam. Shukram is omnipotent. Akayam, Kaya, Manasa Kaya Vacha. So the word Kaya comes from there. Kaya is Manasa Kaya Vacha. Manasa is mind, Vacha is word, Kaya is body. Akayam, he is not embodied. We are embodied. So embodied living entity. So we have body, but the Lord has no body. So therefore, Akayam indicates unembodied. Auranam, without reproach. Auranam matlab one cannot approach him without reproach. One cannot without reproach. Auranam. Asnaviram. Veer. Asnaviram means without veins. Like we all of us have veins. Basically, all of us have material bodies. Therefore, material anatomy of the material body is that we have veins, we have nerves, we have tissues, we have ligaments, we have muscles, we have mucus, we have bile, we have life air. So many things is there in that. But Lord is beyond that. Asnaviryam, without veins. Shuddham, Lord is antiseptic. When we get wound, then we go for antiseptic burnal, so that whatever wound is, it goes off. Similarly, what is the greatest wound? Contamination of the three modes of the material nature, but Lord purifies it. Therefore, He is beyond that. Shuddham. Apapaviddham, prophylactic. What does it mean? Apapaviddham. Apapaviddham means punya and papa. When Lord does any activities, He is beyond both punya and papa. So this first and second line indicates Lord transcends all faults of the material body. So after telling about the Ishavashyam principle, benefits of it in mantra 2, the ill effects of those who don't follow it in mantra 3, in mantra 4, 5, the absolute truth is described, and mantra 6, 7, how that absolute truth pervades and how he is viewed by the Mahabhagavat. So in mantra 8, first part, first and second line, Sa Pariyaga Chukram Akyayam Avranam Asnaviram Shuddham Apapaviddham, speaks about that absolute truth has a body which is beyond faults. That absolute truth has a body which is not material, which is not mundane. That is what mantra 8 speaks about. So it culminates with telling that absolute truth is not impersonal, that absolute truth is all pervading, as seen by Uttam Bhagavat, is having no faults in the body. That means he has a body, but his bodily qualities are having no faults. That is the first part. And if that is the case, he is not having a material body, that means he can't create this material world? No. He is not having a material body, but he is Kabir, he is all-knowing, he is omniscient, he transcends all faults. At the same time, he is all-knowing, Kavi. Second and third and fourth line speaks about Kabir, omniscient. Manisi, philosopher. Paribu, the greatest of all. Swayambhu, self-sufficient, he is not dependent on anyone. He wants to create Brahma. He doesn't need Lakshmi next to him. Lakshmi is massaging his feet, but Lakshmi, he never unites with Lakshmi to produce Brahma. Brahma automatically comes from his navel, lotus navel. Therefore, it's called Swayambhu, self-sufficient. And although Lord is transcends all faults, he is beyond our conception of material bodily conception, but still somebody may question that, okay, that means he is not, he doesn't create this material world. No, he creates this material world, and this material world is real, it's not false. Yata tata yato artan vedada chashvatibhya samabhya. Yata tata yataha, yata tata yataha, just in pursuance of, as one surrenders unto him. Yata mam prapadyante. Yata tata yata artan. Artan means desires. So artan can means desires, and artha can also means this which is worth, which is right, which is not false. Like many times Mayavadis say, this world is Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithyam. But Brahma is Satya and Jagat is also Satya. Brahma is Satya and it is permanent. It is eternal. It is Satchitananda. But this material world is also eternal. But it is not eternal. It is real. It is temporary. It is asat, but it is not false. Therefore, yata tata yato artan means Lord also having a spiritual body. Lord is not having a material body. That doesn't make him fall short from creating the material world which is real. Yata tata yato artan vedadat shashvatibhya samabhya. And he is creating it since time immemorial. That is the understanding. But Prabhupada translates here that yata tata yato artan means he fulfills the desire of all living entities since time immemorial. But the Acharyas say that Lord may not have a material body. That doesn't mean that he doesn't create the material creation. Although he is not having material body, that shows that he transcends the faults. But his energies, by his energies, he creates this real world since time immemorial. So that is also one of the meaning of this verse. But Srila Prabhupada mentions in this mantra 8 that he fulfills everyone's desire since time immemorial. If you are understanding this last line very complicated, it is nothing but Shashvatibhya, time immemorial, samabhya. शाश्वत दिव्य मतलब immemorial. Samabhya, samai, samabhya is time, and what is doing this time immemorial is fulfilling the desires of everyone. That is the meaning. So first and second line speaks about how Lord transcends all the faults of the material body, and third and fourth line speaks about how he is the object of the knowledge. This is the connection between mantra 8 and mantra 9, 10, 11. What is the connection? Because Lord transcends all faults, he is the object of the knowledge. He is to be known from the knowledge. That sarvasya chaham hridhi samnivishto matta smritir jnanam aponam cha vedesya sarvaraham vedyo vedant vedavit vedachaham. Third and fourth line speaks about that Supreme Lord is the object of the knowledge. He is to be known from the Vidya. So that is a connection. So let's see what Prabhupada speaks in this purport. So after understanding this word to word meaning, you'll read the translation of Srila Prabhupada. Such a person must factually know. Which person? Mahabhagavat, who says Yastu Sarvani Bhutani. That is the verse, the 7th verse. Yastu Sarvani Bhutani. Atmaye Vabhut Vijanataha. Ta Shopa Ka Moha Ekatvam Anupashyata. That is the verse. Okay? Such a person, such a Mahabhagavat must factually know the greatest of all, the personality of Godhead, who is unembodied, omniscient, beyond reproach, without veins, pure and uncontaminated. That means he's not having a material body. But he is self-sufficient philosopher who has been fulfilling everyone's desires since time immemorial. Just because he's not having a material body doesn't mean that he's not involved in, he is not the source of this material world as to anything, but he is at same time. That is his inconceivable potency. Okay. Let's go to the purport now. This purport is very simple. Prabhupada just speaks about all these qualities. We have almost how many qualities here? First quality is Shukram, the omnipotent. We can read the word to word meaning here. This is the first quality. Lord is Shukram, omnipotent. Second quality is Akayam, Kaya, Akayam. He is not having the material body. And Avranam, without reproach. That is third. Asna Viryam, without veins. Shuddham, antiseptic. Apapaviddham, prophylactic. Kavi, omniscient. Manisi, Manas means mind. Manishi means master of mind, that is intelligence. And is the intelligent of the intelligent, that is a philosopher. Paribhu, the greatest of all. Swayambhu, self-sufficient. Yata tata yata, just in pursuance of desires. Vidadat, awards. Shashvit tibya, immemorial samabhya. So Prabhupada simply explains all these words in his purports. So this is one of the easiest purport of the Ishwanishad. This is very direct because it just speaks about the qualities of the Supreme Lord. So we'll try to go through this very, very quickly. Okay?
Mahabhagavata means Uttamadhikari?
Yes. Mahabhagavata means Uttamadhikari. Yes, Prabhu. Okay. So can somebody raise their hands so that they can volunteer to read? Okay, we have one raised hand. Shilpa Mataji, you can continue. Then as you raised hand, accordingly you will get the turn. Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji purport.
Yes.
Supreme Lord is person with beautiful form, unembodied, akayam, and without veins. Asna Viram. Here is a description of the transcendental and eternal form of the absolute personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord is not formless. He has his own transcendental form, which is not at all similar to the forms of the mundane world. The forms of the living entities in this world are embodied in material nature, and they work like any material machine. The anatomy of a material body must have a mechanical construction with veins and so forth. But the transcendental body of the Supreme Lord has nothing like veins. It is clearly stated here that he is unembodied, which means that there is no difference between his body and his soul. Nor is he forced to accept a body according to the laws of nature as we are. In materially conditioned life, the soul is different from the gross embodiment and subtle mind. For the Supreme Lord, however, there is never any such difference between him and his body and the mind. He is the complete whole, and his mind, body, and he himself are all one and the same.
Yes.
Hare
So
Krishna.
what Prabhupada is explaining here is about the two qualities of the Lord. The first quality is how Lord is akayam, unembodied, and without veins. In our case, when you see our body now, we have a gross body made up of earth, water, fire, air, ether. Then we have a subtle body made up of mind, intelligence, and ego. Then we have a spiritual body, Satchitananda, his soul. So this is a cross section of a human being or anybody in the material world. What is the cross section of any 84 lakh species this material world? It is having a gross body, it has a subtle body, and over that, on the soul is called by the subtle body and the gross body. Okay, subtle body is the body of desires, because whatever we do, everything is stored in subtle body, and therefore gross body may get burnt, it may be buried, but soul along with the subtle body carries the soul to the next destination. Therefore, the cross section or composition of any mundane living entity is that it is covered, it is embodied, but Lord is not having any body. If you take a cross section of the Lord, like example, if you take a doll which is made up of sugar candy, and if you take a human being, if you cut his cross section, you will see that there is a gross body made of earth or fire, air, ether, then there is subtle body, then there is soul. But if you take a doll and cut it cross section, outside also it is sugar, inside also it is sugar. Similarly, Lord is outside also is Satchitananda and inside also is Satchitananda. His body outside and inside is completely spiritual. That is the meaning of unembodied. Presently, in a conditioned state, the soul is in a shrunken form, and therefore it has got a subtle body called as body of desires to understand that, to get an understanding that it is enjoying life. For example, this question is put, I generally put this question in front of many students who come for the first time on the basics of Gita course. You know, the soul is eternal, Satchitananda. It can never feel any, it is eternal, it is full of knowledge, it is full of bliss. Okay, and the body is dead. The gross body made up of earth, water, fire, air, ether, it is dead. But who feels the pleasure and pain? If soul is eternal, full of knowledge, full of bliss, and body is dead, so when somebody dies, why there is so much of pain? Or when your body gets cut, and when there is a wound, when there is an accident, who is suffering the pleasure? What is the answer? Who is suffering the pain and pleasure? The body is dead, the soul is eternal, full of bliss. So soul, there is no pleasure and no pain. So who is suffering then? Yes, who can answer? Somebody who know, someone can volunteer to
Prabhuji,
answer
is
this one.
it the soul is suffering, Prabhuji? Or
Okay, the question is that only. The body is dead matter. The soul is completely spiritual. Then who is suffering then? The body cannot.
Prabhuji,
The soul cannot.
is it like the soul suffers but pain goes to the body?
Yes, Udayanand, what you are telling?
Yeah, the soul suffers, but the body undergoes the pain. So pain is for the body and suffering is for the soul.
Okay, it's the same thing what you are telling. The question is the same thing. Okay, soul is dead and body, soul is eternal, full of knowledge, full of this, and body is dead. So is suffering. So your answer is that okay, body is suffering the pain and pleasure, and the soul is feeling that pain. Okay.
I mean, if you say that the body is, the soul has left the body, then I don't think there'll be pain because soul can just suffer, but it doesn't experience the pain.
And the suffering is to the subtle body.
Anand Raman Narsimhan Prabhu has told soul is suffering. Yes, I'll put a question instead of death. I'll tell whenever when some of the human being meet an accident, the soul is eternal, but the body is dead. But why there is so much of pain when you undergo a fracture? Okay, I made it simple.
Yeah, because the body undergoes the pain, but whether to suffer or not, it is the choice of the soul. So if I get under an accident and then if it pains, I may have pain, but I can choose not to suffer, which depends on my soul. Is it right, Prabhuji? Or
Yeah, it's what you're telling is right only. So, but question is why? It depends on soul only.
Prabhuji, can I
Soul
try,
is choosing to
Prabhuji?
experience.
Yes. One by one. Okay, for
Prabhuji,
one thing we can try.
a subtle body is a body of desires. When we got some accidents, if our hand get fractured, we can't eat. So the subtle body is suffering. So that's the thing. The soul is Sachidanand, like that, Prabhuji. So that's my
Okay.
understanding, Prabhuji.
Very good. Very nice try. Yes. Any more question? Any more answers? Let's see. Let's share a little bit.
Prabhuji,
Till
the
now we have
soul
been
is
only
wanting to
having a
experience.
lecture type of session. So we'll have some discussion, full discussion. Yes, you can tell your name, Prabhu, and then tell the answer.
Prabhuji, I'm Anand Ram.
Yes, Anand Raman, please tell.
Yeah, Prabhuji, the soul is wanting, right? The reason why the soul is entrapped in this body is because the soul wanted to experience. It had those desires. So,
Yeah, yes, true. The soul had a desire, therefore it is trapped. But question is, when while cutting sabji or when we are walking, when you slip and fall down, when we get a wound, there is a pain. So whether a soul is suffering the pain or the body is dead. So how can it suffer? But soul is Sachitananda. How can it suffer? So question is either body is suffering or soul is suffering.
with the help of the body, it is suffering.
Yeah, yes.
So Prabhuji, consciousness, Prabhuji, it's a thinking, feeling, willing.
Okay, one by one you can tell. You can tell your name and you can tell the answer. You can raise the hands. I'll take one by one call. Okay, Sri Giraj Prabhu, please tell what is the answer.
So Prabhuji, the symptoms of consciousness is thinking, feeling, willing, right? So,
okay, Sushilendra Prabhu has told both are suffering, Prabhuji. There is suffering as long as body and soul are together. Okay, very nice. It's one step closer to the answer. Yes, Sri Giraj Prabhu, please tell what you are telling.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, and as long as the soul is, as long as the physical body, material body is in connection with the soul, soul also suffers.
Okay, that is right.
Once the soul is detached from when the body is dead, the soul is detached from the body.
Yes, Mataji, I agree with you. I agree with you. But who is suffering?
Material body.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Very close to the answer. We have two answers in the chat. Soul is suffering due to unfulfilled desire. And from Santosh Aditya Prabhu. And then from Sucharita Devi Mataji. We have soul is developing impressions because soul is Sachitananda. Okay. So finally, the ball is in the same court. Who is suffering? The body or soul?
Body.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, whatever the based on our this whole body is suffering, I believe, Prabhuji, because based on our desire, the next body we get and all, and so soul transmigrates and everything. So based on that, actually, this body is suffering because of the desires which carry to other body, whatever it may.
Yes, very close, Akinchan Priya Prabhu, very close.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, the body is suffering because body is made up of Panchabhautik Tattva. So the soul is suffering through the body, Prabhuji.
Very, very close, Mataji.
Yeah.
So I'll just put it in the words.
The body is suffering because of the presence of soul, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji, what you're telling is absolutely right. Okay.
Prabhuji,
because of
Prabhuji,
consciousness of the soul, Prabhuji.
Okay.
If soul
yes.
is not present, body cannot feel.
Yes. Correct.
Prabhuji, as per my understanding, is not physical body which is suffering. It's a subtle body, right? When you left your body, your soul travel, right? Let's suppose in hellish condition, it is given a subtle body to feel that pain. So my understanding is it's subtle body. which has
Yes.
desire. So if it is not according to the desire, it does not like.
Yes, very nice, Vivek Prabhu. Very nice. Very close. Very, very close to the answer. So this is discussed by His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj in his Bhagavad Gita series of 91 in Chopati, Dehi Nosminata Dehe. There he puts a question to the audience. The body is dead and the soul is Sachitananda. So who suffers? As all of you are told, all answers are almost right. But some of you are told about subtle body. So that is a hint. Basically, the answer what Bhakti Rasa Maharaj gives in the lecture is soul misidentifying with the body. That is the cause of suffering. And an example you know very clearly. You brought a new vehicle and somebody is playing cricket and the cork ball comes and hits your windshield before you do puja. Although the cork ball comes and hits the windshield, it has not hit your head, but you have gone to the shop to purchase a coconut and flower garland. By the time you come and turn back and see, if you feel as if your heart has broken. Before the vehicle, if it was somebody else's vehicle, you would have thought, okay, fine. You would have just not even looked also at it. You would have thought, okay, the way it has shattered like anything, you know, it's like a climax. It's like a miracle. How everything has become powdered. It doesn't matter to you. But very in fact that you have bought the vehicle, you have worked so hard, you earned such hard money, saved it from so many years, and after that you have purchased a new brand new vehicle, you know, then after years of savings, when you take that vehicle, there is so much of attachment. So it's a misidentification. The soul misidentifying with the body. Like you identifying with the car, you feel pain and pleasure. Like there are so many children who don't get food, clothing, shelter. There's so many people who are getting COVID and they are leaving their body. Just for an example, not that something should happen to any of your relatives, but when something happens to our near and dear ones, they get COVID or because of some accident, they get admitted to hospital, we feel pleasure and pain. Or the neighbor is there and his son or his daughter or somebody near and dear relative, they have some problems. Oh, how it matters for us. We just tell, okay, it should not happen. But we don't feel that. We don't step into their shoes. We don't have that empathy. But when that happens to our near and dear one, oh my Lord, that pain is immediately. So what is that? Identification. It's a simulation. Therefore, this world is called a simulated world, according to Richard L. Thompson, a devotee. Dhruta Karma Prabhu and Richard L. Thompson, they are like engineering genius of our movement. He has written, Michael Cremo has written Forbidden Archaeology, and Richard L. Thompson has written a book called as A Simulated World. He has made a video called Simulation of World, where he tells about when a person is trying to drive a car, when he is walking, he is only aware of 3 feet distance between him and the vehicle. But when he takes a car, then he has to think of 10 feet distance. That means he has to simulate himself with the car. Therefore, the soul simulates itself with the body. And that misidentification with the body is the cause of pleasure and pain. So whole point why we have discussed is just to bring to this conclusion that Lord is not having this body. He is not embodied. He is unembodied. We are embodied, but Lord is unembodied. Kyayam, akayam, without veins. That is the thing what we wanted to drive home. So in material condition life, the soul is different from the gross embodiment and subtle mind. It's a subtle mind. It's a subtle body. The soul identifying with the gross body, which is the cause of pleasure and pain. Okay, this point is clear to all of us.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, one question Prabhu I have.
Yes, Prabhu, please ask.
Prabhu, so the ego gets hurt. That is when it is when it's mental. The pain is not. What about physical pain, Prabhu?
Yeah, it's an identification sensation because we identify with it.
So that is
therefore it's called na. Like when Sridhar Maharaj was there.
Also.
Yeah, like Sridhar Maharaj was there when he was leaving his body. His stomach was completely swollen like a pregnant woman, and it was very very painful. And when he went to the doctor and doctor saw his stomach and he asked jokingly, if anybody else was in his position, he would have been crying like anything. And Sridhar Maharaj was known as his only Sridhar Swami Maharaj known as Jolly Swami. He asked the doctor, so what is there, male or female? And he was laughing. although he was about to leave body in some 1-2 months. So pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. For a person who is not in bodily conception of life, pain is inevitable, but suffering is to suffer by that pain or not is optional. So to the degree we are of the bodily conception of life, the bodily pain will not matter to us. Like Bhakti Rasam Maharaj, when he met an accident in Vrindavan in 2007, when he had to get the surgery done for his face, if you see his eyes is a little dislocated right now, and there was big bleeding. But when doctors wanted to operate him, he told, I'll not take anesthesia. Generally, when you want to get operated, we take anesthesia. But Maharaj declined from taking anesthesia, and the operation was done without anesthesia. Therefore, based on the advancement of a soul, the suffering becomes optional. Pain is inevitable. Therefore, what it is, the bodily conception of life, that soul misidentifying the body is a cause of pleasure and pain. This is a fundamental concept of chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita. Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yavvanam jara tata dehantaras praptir dhiras tatrana muyati. What is dhiras tatrana muyati? A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. So that means on the level of soul. That is the conception of soul. Okay, so we'll carry on with our next discussion now, because this is the Ishopanishad class and we are discussing on the qualities. So we'll carry on the second para now. Yes, please raise your hands again. All hands are down now, so that, okay, Kumar Prabhu, Praveen Kumar Prabhu can read the next Brahma Samhita. Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. In the Brahma Samhita 5.1, there is a similar description of the Supreme Lord. He is described there as Satchit Anand Vigraha, which means that he is the eternal form fully representing transcendental existence, knowledge and bliss. As such, he does not require a separate body or mind as we do in material existence. The Vedic literature clearly states that the Lord's transcendental body is completely different from ours. Thus, he is sometimes described as formless. This means that he has no form like ours and that he is devoid of a form we can conceive of.
Therefore, you just completed the first part. Supreme Lord is a person with a beautiful form. That is the last paragraph what we read now. And he is Akyayam, Akayam, unembodied and without wings. So this is a topic which we just read. So let's go to the next second subtitle. Lord is omnipotent. What is the meaning of Shukram? Shukram means Lord is omnipotent and omniscient. This is what Prabhupada covers in this. Actually, this is not the second para, it's second para only, but I've just divided from bifurcation. If you read in, if you see the Ishopanishad textbook, this is the part of second paragraph only. But as soon as the title has changed, I've made a different subheading. Yes, we have who has raised hand? Yes, Vanilla Mataji, can you read from here? Lord is omnipotent.
Hare Krishna. Lord is omnipotent, Sukram, and omniscient, Kavihi. In the Brahma Samhita 5.32, it is further stated that with each and every part of his body, he can do the work of other senses. This means that the Lord can walk with his hands, accept things with his legs, see with his hands and feet, eat with his eyes, etc. In the Shruti mantras, it is also said that although the Lord has no hands and legs like ours, he has different type of hands and legs by which he can accept all that we offer him and run faster than anyone. These points are confirmed in 8 mantra through the use of the words like Sukram and Sukram omnipotent. The Lord's worshipable form Archa Vigraha, which is installed in the temples by authorized acharyas who have realized the Lord in terms of mantra 7, is not different from the original form of the Lord. The Lord's original form is that of Sri Krishna, and Sri Krishna expands himself into an unlimited number of forms such as Baladeva, Rama, Narsimha, and Varaha. All of these forms are one and the same personality of Godhead. Similarly, the Archa Vigraha worshipped in temples is also expanded form of the Lord. By worshipping the Archa Vigraha, one can approach the Lord who accepts the service of devotee by his omnipotent energy. The Archa Vigraha of the Lord descends at the request of Acharyas, the holy teachers, and works exactly in the original way of Lord by virtue of the Lord's omnipotence. Foolish people who have no knowledge of Sri Isopanishad or any other Shruti mantras consider the Archa Vigraha, which is worshipped by pure devotees, to be made of material elements. This form may be seen as material by imperfect eyes of foolish people or Kanishtadhikaris, but such people do not know that the Lord, being omnipotent and omniscient, can transform into matter and transform matter into spirit and spirit into matter as he desires.
Yes. So what is the meaning of omnipotent means? Shukram means omnipotent. Lord can convert matter into spirit, spirit into matter. And the omniscient part. Omniscient part is just mentioned in the last part of the paragraph. This form but such people do not know that Lord, being omnipotent and omniscient, can transform matter into spirit and spirit into matter as it desires. What is the meaning of omnipotence? Is like every day we sing in Govindamadi Purusham, Venum Kwanantam Aravinda Dalaya Paksham Bharatavam. We say that Angani yasa saklendriya vrittimanti tashanti panti kalyanti chiram jaganti Ananda chinmaya saljula vigrahasya Govindamadi Purusham tamam bhajami. That is a shloka 5.32. Lord can perform any activities with any of his things. That is the meaning of omnipotent. He can use any part of his body to do any other functions of any other limbs. And that is with his body. And that is what signifies here Shukram. And also when Lord comes as Archa Vigraha, he is fully potent to reciprocate with the Lord. The same thing we have seen in the 5th mantra, where it says that Lord accepts the form favorable to accept the service of his devotees, so that he accepts a form which is so-called material to accept the service of his devotees who are on that platform of material body. So that is also omnipotence of the Lord, that because the Lord is omnipotent, he Shukram, therefore he expands himself as a deity, Archa, to accept our service by his omnipotency. But people who don't know the Shruti mantra, they think that this deity is to be made of matter. Therefore, these two qualities are covered here. What is that? Omniscient. Lord is Kavi, all-knowing, and he is omnipotent, Shukram. He can do any activity in any way. Okay, so we'll go to the next discussion. But who are the people who cannot understand Lord's omnipotence and why? In Bhagavad Gita 9.11 to 12, the Lord regrets the fallen condition of a man with a little knowledge who deride him. Avajananti Mamoda, that is a shloka. Because he descends like a man into this world. Such poorly informed persons do not know the omnipotence of the Lord. Why they don't know? Because they think his body to be made up of matter. The same two discussions, those people who come to the Ishopanishad, they see first, second, third mantra, they conclude in the fourth, fifth mantra that the Lord is impersonal. That is the first debate. Second debate is, if Lord is not impersonal, he should be a material. Okay, he is having a form, that then his form should be material. So there are two debates which Prabhupada refutes in the fifth mantra. So that is the same thing here. People who think that Lord to be material are these mental speculators. They cannot understand Lord's omnipotence. And he can be pursued only in proportion to and surrender to him. Why? Because they don't surrender to him. They just speculate from their mind and senses. The fallen condition of the living entity is due entirely to forgetfulness of the relationship with the God. And why they don't accept him? Because of the forgetfulness nature, because of avidya, they've forgotten. Because of the forgetfulness of the actual nature of the Lord, they deride the Lord. And because of that, they cannot understand his omnipotence. So mental speculators cannot understand Lord's omnipotence. Why they cannot understand? Because they have entirely forgotten the relationship with the Lord. That is the answer. Okay, we will go to the next part. Now we have covered Akayam, then we have covered Asnaviryam, we have covered Shukram, then we have covered Kavi. So we'll go to the next quality, that is Yata Tata Yato Aratan Shashvatibhya Samabhya. So who is raising hands? I think we have Saraswati Mataji. Yes, Mataji, you read this paragraph. Lord maintains sanctions and reciprocates.
Lord maintains sanction and reciprocates. He is the fulfiller of desires. Yata Tata Yatayo Ratan. In this mantra, As well as in many other Vedic mantras, it is clearly stated that the Lord has been supplying goods to the living entities from time immemorial. A living being desires something, and the Lord supplies the object of the desire in proportion to one's qualification. If a man wants to be a high court judge, he must acquire not only the necessary qualification, but also the consent of the authority who can award the title of high court judge. The qualification in themselves are not sufficient for one to occupy the post. It must be awarded by some superior authority. Similarly, the Lord awards enjoyment to living entities in proportion to their qualification. But good qualification in themselves are not sufficient to enable one to receive awards. The mercy of the Lord is also required. Ordinarily, the living being does not know what to ask from the Lord, nor which post to seek. When the living being comes to know his constitutional position, however, he asks to be accepted into the transcendental association of the Lord in order to render transcendental loving service unto him. Unfortunately, living beings under the influence of material nature ask for many other things, and they are described in Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, 41 shloka as having divided or splayed intelligence. Spiritual intelligence is one, but mundane intelligence is diverse. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, 5th chapter, 30 shloka to 31, it is stated that those who are captivated by the temporary beauty of the external energy forgot the real aim of life, which is to go back to Godhead. Forgetting this one tries to adjust things by various plans and programs. But this is like chewing what he has already been so one tries to, let me see 1 second, yeah. One tries to adjust things by various plans and programs, but this is like chewing what he has already been chewed. Nonetheless, the Lord is so kind that he allows the forgetful living entity to continue in this way without interference. Thus, this mantra of Sri Ishopanishad uses the very appropriate word yatha tat yataha, indicating that the Lord rewards the living entity just in the pursuance of their desires. If a living being wants to go to hell, the Lord allows him to do so without interference. And if he wants to go back to the home, back to Godhead, the Lord helps him. Krishna.
So this is a very wonderful quality of the Lord. Yata tata yato aratan. I'll just try to display it. So in this part, we have just finished. The first part speaks about how Lord maintains. So Lord is supplying goods to the living entities from time immemorial. Living being desires, and the Lord supplies. Nityo nityanam chetana chetananam eka bahunam yo vidati kaman. That Lord is eka, but all the living entities are unlimited. But that eka Lord is maintaining all other lords. Not only maintains, like a father maintains, and when the child wants to go to the school, he wants to purchase something, then father has to sanction. The sanction of father is required. Then only the child can go to the school, he can pay the fees. If he wants to purchase a cycle, if he wants to purchase a bicycle, if he wants to purchase clothes, there has to be sanction of the father. Similarly, unless and otherwise, child may have a desire. Our child sometimes may study very nicely and get a good rank, but till the time father doesn't sanction, he can't get any of the gifts. Same thing, Prabhupada gives an analogy of a high court judge here. That simply because you've got a degree and you've cracked some exam is not enough, but there has to be a person who can certify that you are qualified. That authority has to be there. It must be awarded by some superior authority. Similarly, the Lord awards enjoyment to the living entity in proportion to their qualification. Desire and you should deserve. But apart from deserve, Prabhupada is mentioning here a third particular sanctioner. Like we see that the tripod of in 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, we see the Jivatma desires, the Prakriti facilitates, the Paramatma sanctions. So therefore, this is a triangle. That triangle can be applied here. That our desire is not just enough, and facilitation of Prakriti is also not enough. Desire, and there has to be sanctioner. And therefore, the sanctioning authority has to be there. And that is the meaning of this word yata tata yato arthan shashvitibhya sumabhya. And Prabhupada is making a point here. Living entities generally want material enjoyment, but actual purification of heart is that they want to render transcendental service to him. And he says, Vyavasayatmika buddhi, bhavushakai anantasya manasya avyavashayina. So those who are having mental intelligence, their goal is Bhoga Aishwarya. And Punas Charvita Charvananam, as told by Prahlad Maharaj in the Bhagavatam 7th canto. But despite Lord is giving them facility to serve him, and at the same time Lord is giving them facility to enjoy. So material world is created in such a way that we have the choice. Basically, life is full of choices at every step. We have a choice to attend Bhakti Shastri or not. We have a choice while attending this session to be consciously attentive in this session or to do some parallel processing at the same time. We have the choice. The choice is always there. And we have the choice to continue this program or not continue this program. Therefore, there is choice at every step. There is Bhadra Purnima. We have a choice whether to distribute Bhagavatam or not distribute Bhagavatam. We have a choice whether to chant some extra rounds or not chant some extra rounds. So we have a choice to do everything. But Lord is so kind that he allows a forgetful living entity to continue in this without interference. He can continue the program. That is what is mentioned here by yata tata yatan. The Lord rewards the living entity just in pursuance of their desire. If he wants to go to hell, Lord says Satastu. If he wants to go back to Godhead, Lord also says Satastu. So Lord is not the responsible. The Jivatma is responsible. But Lord is only sanctioner. That is the meaning of the word yata tata yatan arthan. So Lord sanctions, reciprocates, and maintains. Therefore, it's called as fulfiller of desires. So whatever living entity desires, Lord sanctions. Okay, so next quality we are coming to is Lord is Paribhu, the greatest of all. So who is the next? We have I think Sucharita Mataji. Please read the next paragraph.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danuttanam. Lord is Paribhuhu, the greatest of all. God is described here as Paribhuhu, the greatest of all. No one is greater than or equal to him. Other living beings are described here as beggars who ask goods from the Lord. The Lord supplies the things the living entities desire. If the entities were equal to the Lord in potency, if they were omnipotent and omniscient, there would be no question of their begging from the Lord, even for so-called liberation. Real liberation means going back to Godhead. Liberation, as conceived of by an impersonalist, is a myth, and begging for sense gratification has to continue eternally unless the beggar comes to his spiritual senses and realizes his constitutional position.
Yes, this quality of Paribhu, that Lord is the greatest of all. So again, Prabhupada is correcting from previous that Lord maintains, therefore everybody is begging from the Lord. But how can the living entity beg and at the same time conclude that he is God? So therefore, Prabhupada is using that argument. Other living beings are described as beggars who ask goods from the Lord. And Lord supplies. Again, the same shloka. Nityo nityanam, chetanas chetanam. So Lord is asamardva and urdhva. There is no one equal to him and no one superior to him. He is superior. Matta parataram nanyad kinshidasti dhananjaya mai sarvamidam purtam sutramani ganaiva. That means there is no one superior to him in tattva. And if entities were equal to the Lord in potency, if they are omnipotent and omniscient, then why they are begging? And why they are begging for liberation? Prabhupada is trying to punch on the nose of Vedantis to make them toothless. So-called Mayavadi sannyasis, they say that Namo Narayana, that you are God, I am God, I am Narayana. Then if that is the case, why they are doing such austerities and trying to read Vedanta to get liberated if they are God? So the living entities are equal to the Lord in potency. If they were omnipotent and omniscient, there would be no question of their begging from the Lord, even for so-called liberation. This is a punch on the Mayavadis Prabhupada is giving here. So real liberation means going back to Godhead. liberation as considered by an impersonalist is a myth. And begging for sense gratification has to continue eternally unless the beggar comes to his spiritual senses and realizes his constitutional position. So karma and jnana. Shuddha bhakti is jnana karma anavritam. If a karmi goes to the Lord for sense gratification, and the Mayavadi sannyasis make claim themselves to be the God, but still they beg for liberation from the Lord by their austerities. But in all the cases, the Lord is Asama Urdhva. He is Paribhu, the greatest of all. Yes, the next quality. So what is that? Swayambhu and Avranam. Lord is self-sufficient and beyond reproach. Yes, Muralidhar Govind Prabhu. Who is next? I think who's raised hands?
Yes, Prabhu. Can I read, Prabhu?
Lalit Mohan Prabhu, please read. So I was saying someone. Yes.
Lord is self-sufficient, Swayambhu, beyond reproach, Avranam. Only the Supreme Lord is self-sufficient. When Lord Krishna appeared on earth 5,000 years ago, he displayed his full manifestation as a personality of Godhead through his various activities. In his childhood, he killed many powerful demons such as Aghasur, Bakasur, and Shakatasura. And there was no question of his having acquired such power through any extraneous endeavor. He lifted Govardhan Hill without ever practicing weightlifting. He danced with gopis without social restrictions and without reproach. Although the gopis approached him with a paramour's feeling of love, the relationship between the gopis and Lord Krishna was worshipped even by Lord Chaitanya, who was a strict sannyasi and a rigid follower of disciplinary regulations.
Yes. So what Prabhupada is mentioning here in this paragraph is, meaning of self-sufficient Swayambhu means what? Lord is creating Brahma without the aid of Lakshmi ji. That means, that is Prabhupada mentioning here a statement. In his childhood, he killed many powerful demons. There's no question of his having acquired such power through any extraneous endeavor. So to create Brahma also, Lord Vishnu doesn't require any extraneous endeavor or any aid of Shri Lakshmi to produce Brahma. Automatically by his lotus navel, Brahmaji is created. And therefore Lord is self-sufficient. That is his Swayambhu. And then he is giving an analogy of Govardhan and beyond reproach. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And Prabhupada is giving an example of he is dancing with the gopis without social restriction and without reproach. That is Avranam. Although the act may seem socially be unacceptable, but Lord is always pure. He is beyond reproach. Avranam. Sin cannot approach him there. So although gopis approached him with the paramour feelings of love, the relation between the gopis and the Lord is even worshipped by Lord Chaitanya as a strict sannyas and rigid follower. So these are the two qualities are mentioned here. Prabhupada is giving an analogy of Krishna killing the demons right from the birth, lifting Govardhan without any weightlifting practice. At the same time, he is dancing with the gopis. So sin cannot approach him. Beyond reproach of the mundane activities. These are two qualities Prabhupada is mentioning in this paragraph. Yes, can we go to the last part now? So Lord is supremely pure, Shuddham, and Apapaviddham, antiseptic and prophylactic. So whom we have? We have Sri Giriraj Prabhu. Please read.
Hello, Pranam Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. One second, Prabhuji. Yeah, Lord is supremely pure, Shuddham, antiseptic, and Apaya Viddham, prophylactic. To confirm that the Lord is always pure and uncontaminated, Sri Ishopanishad describes him as Shuddham, antiseptic, and Apapaviddham, prophylactic. He is antiseptic in the sense that even an impure thing can become purified just by touching him. The word prophylactic refers to the power of his association. As mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter 30 and 31 verses, in the beginning, a devotee may appear to be sudurachara, not well behaved, but he should be accepted as pure because he is on the right path. This is due to the prophylactic nature of the Lord's association. The Lord is also Apapaviddham because Sin cannot touch him. Even if he acts in a way that appears to be sinful, such actions are all good. For there is no question of his being affected by sin, because in all circumstances he is Shuddham, most purified. He is often compared to the sun. The sun extracts, just a second, Prabhuji, lower hand, yeah. The sun extracts moisture from many untouchable places on the earth, yet it remains pure. In fact, it purifies obnoxious things by virtue of its sterilizing powers. If the sun, which is a material object, is so powerful, then we can hardly begin to imagine the purifying strength of the all-powerful Lord.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
These are the qualities like Avranam, which we discussed last, is dancing with the gopis, and Shuddham and Apapaviddham. These are almost similar. So Baldev Vidyabhushan writes Avranam as without fault. So Lord's pastimes are without faults. Apparently, it may be from the society point of view, may look like it is something like very illicit, but Lord is Avranam. So all pastimes Lord does, he's stealing of butter. When he's not getting butter, he's trying to pinch the babies of the gopis, and when he's not getting anything, then Krishna and Balaram are passing stool and urine there. But that is coming in Srimad Bhagavatam. Like Maharaj was telling in one of the Kartika Yatra, how many of us pass stool and urine, but what discussion happens about it? But when Krishna and Balaram does it, that comes the basis of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Vedanta, the culmination of the Vedanta. Therefore, Avaranam means without fault. Lord's activities are without fault. And when Shuddham, antiseptic, is being mentioned, that the sterilizing effect of the sun, that is association, like when a devotee is coming to practice Krishna consciousness, and because of his past habits, he may commit some sinful activities. But his condition is like a person, when somebody is returning from a, I think you can move. Yes. When children go and play in the rainy season, and when while playing football and cricket, when they skid, a lot of dirt is covered on their body. And when they start taking bath, the elder brother may start chastising younger brother, see you're so dirty, you're so dirty. But moment he comes to the bathroom and is under the tap, very soon, achirena, it's a question of time. Once after the bath, after his shower, he's completely cleansed. So similarly, people who come to Krishna consciousness, especially practicing devotees, they are under the shower. So right now, when they practice bhakti, they are under the shower. So once they come to the shower, it's a matter of fact they're going to be cleaned. And this is a quality of Lord, which is being mentioned by Prabhupada here in 9.30 to 31. Sudurachara, not well behaved. But because Lord is prophylactic, Apapaviddham, he is beyond Papa and Punya. His qualities, his own activities are beyond Papa and Punya. And those who come and discuss his qualities and pastimes, his charitra, everyone, they are like very pious activities which can completely purify the person who is discussing it, person who is practicing it. Although apparently at the present condition, a person might be succumbing to some sinful activities, but he continues with faith. Very soon, Achirena, in a time to come, the person will be completely purified. But the person should endeavor. Neither the person should become morose and give Krishna consciousness, neither those people who are around him should speak ill about him. So that is what Prabhupada is trying to tell you. Apapaviddham, prophylactic. Lord can completely purify. That is the Lord's association, prophylactic nature of the Lord's association. And Shuddham, he can completely purify. So two examples he is giving of Bhagavad Gita, practicing devotee who can commit some sinful activities, and the nature of the sun, which is Shuddham, it can completely extract moisture from the untouchable places like stool and urine and still remain untouched. So if the material sun can do that, what to speak of the Supreme Person of God is completely spiritual. So it's completely purifying. Therefore, his names, his qualities, therefore Lord is called as absolute. So Lord's names, qualities, pastimes, or everything absolute. Madhuri Lila Guna Rupa Nam Nam. That is the nature of the Lord. So in this way, we can see these qualities. The first and second quality line of this shloka which we have discussed now, speaks about Lord transcends all faults. Sa paryaga chukram akayam auranam asna viryam shuddham apapa viddham. He transcends the material body. He is beyond the material body. He transcends all the faults. The last two lines speaks about Kavir, Manishi, Paribu, Swayambhur, Yata, Tata Yato, Aratan, Vedadat, Chashvatibhya, Samabhya speaks about how he is completely spiritual and he is the cause of all causes of this material world. He fulfills the desire. Even the Mayavadi impersonalists, they have to beg liberation from him. Even the Karmis, they beg sense gratification from him. If they were equal to Lord in any way, if atheists deny that Lord is mundane, then why they are begging from Lord sense gratification? If the impersonalists, they want liberation, then why they are telling Lord is impersonal? So both of them surrender to Lord for their end product. Yata tata yato aratan vidadata chashvatibhya samabhya. So in that way, Lord is Swayambhu. So that is the discussion here. So these are wonderful qualities of the Lord from Mantra 8. And this concludes the vision of Mahabhagat section of Ishopanishad. So we have the next section. The third and fourth line indicate what should the subject of discussion by all of us. The topic of discussion, a topic of Vidya is that Supreme Lord. To know about Him, how Lord is the supreme proprietor of everything, that is Vidya. And the forgetfulness of that thought is Avidya. So this is the connection between Mantra 8 and Mantra 9 is what is worth discussing, what is the knowledge, what is worth gaining knowledge of is knowledge of the God. And therefore, the next section is comparison of knowledge, comparison of Vidya and Avidya. So that is the next section. So if anybody has any questions till now, then we can ask for 2-3 minutes. Otherwise, we'll start with the next topic.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So it is said that the God does not have like veins and the material body like us. So when God takes different forms like Ram or say or even Krishna or Vaman Dev and so he takes the material body or the material body, or it is still continues to be spiritual body without veins and say without pains and without sufferings and everything that was mentioned.
Yes. So whatever Ishopanishad is mentioning, Lord acts according to that. When Lord comes, it's like an electrical engineer, you know. He can use electricity to produce a heating effect in a heat pump or a heater, or in a refrigeration or air conditioner. He can use electricity for cooling effect. So when Lord appears, apparently it may appear that he's having a human body like us, but it's not a human body like us. He's completely transcendental. He's Mayadish. He's not Mayavash. He's Mayadish. So apparently Lord will pass through and urine in Vrindavan.
So
that is
okay,
to create the
yeah.
pastime.
So my question was also, for example, when Krishna was little, or say later as well, so whether he was getting any pain, or say he got any hurt, or so, and then there was blood or veins oozing out or not. So or I understand from a spirituality standpoint that he has spiritual body, but whether he in the disguise of being in the material world, he also actually has material body and shape and form of material.
Yeah, we can see. Yeah, I understood your question. Actually, Lord is a controller of material energy and spiritual energy, and he's omnipotent Shukram. If we take the quality of Shukram, Lord can manifest matter into spirit, spirit into matter. For example, we come to say take section of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhishma Stuti, the Mahabharat battlefield, when Bhishma had taken a vow that either I'll kill a Pandava or Krishna has to break his vow. And that time Bhishma Dev is a devotee in a Viryaras. And he's like, when Krishna sends Arjuna and informs Arjuna that, you know, once upon a time when all of you are in Vanvas, Duryodhana had come on that pond and he was trying to have a nice picnic with all his wives. And that time Chitrath Gandharva came and defeated him. And then all his soldiers came turning to Yudhishthira Maharaj and told Arey, Kuru Vamsha's prince Duryodhana is being captured and all the ladies are being tortured by this Chitrat Gandharva and this party. So can you send some help to save us? Because for insiders we are 105, but for outsiders we are 100 plus 5, 105. Yudhishthira Maharaj turns towards Bhima and tells, Bhima, go and protect Duryodhana. And he tells, no, nothing doing. I can't forget what he has done with all of us. Then he turns to Arjuna. Arjuna tells, yes, sir. He tells, yes, brother, I will do it. And he goes there and Chitrat sees him and sees, after seeing him, tells, you are my friend. I'm doing it for you only. But then Arjuna says, no, you have to leave. Then there is a battle and he defeats Chitrat. And that time Duryodhana goes into depression. Their section Mahabharata describes Duryodhana just was almost fasting till death. But then before that, because Kshatriya dishonor is worse than death, Duryodhana tells Arjuna, you can ask anything from me. If you want, you can ask the whole Hastinapur from me. This Kurukshetra, this whole Kuru Vamsh from me, I'll give it to you because you have saved my life. But then Arjuna says, no, we are already in Vanvas, we will not take anything. But in future and time comes, we'll take it. And there is a description in Mahabharata where Duryodhana is completely demoralized and is about to leave the body. But then the personification of Dwapara, all the demons, they come from the Patala and they take Duryodhana's subtle body to the Patala and they give him seminars, motivational classes, how he has appeared, how he has to fulfill the mission of the demons by fighting with dharmic people like Pandavas. And then he gets up and comes back and goes to again back to his kingdom. And then when all those things are happening, he does all the politics, takes Bhishma, takes Drona, everyone. And when this is the boon which he gives to Arjuna, then Krishna reminds Arjuna about this boon. And Arjuna at the night, when Bhishma has taken this vow, because Duryodhana wanted to instigate some Kshatriya spirit in Bhishma that he should give partiality, then Bhishma tells, okay, either the Pandavas should die or Krishna should break his vow. He should lift a weapon. Because Krishna had told, I'll not lift any weapon. So this vow Bhishma takes when Duryodhana comes to Bhishma and tells, okay, we have this 5 arrows and this for 5 Pandavas. Then Duryodhana tells to Bhishma, I don't know if you keep this with you, you will be partial, and if they come and ask, you may give it to them. So give this 5 arrows to me. So Duryodhana takes it to his room, to his tent. Then Krishna sends Arjuna to the tent of Duryodhana. And Arjuna goes and reminds him, do you remember when Gandharvas attacked you? That time you had told me that you can ask whatever you want. And Duryodhana says, yes, just tell me what you want. You want to stop the battle and you want to take the kingdom? No, I don't want that. I want those 5 arrows given by Bhishma Pitama. That is the climax. So Duryodhana goes and instigates Bhishma Pitama. Bhishma Pitama wanted to keep the arrow with him, but Duryodhana takes that arrow and brings to his tent. And Krishna sends Arjuna to that tent. And can you imagine? Bhishma Pitama was normal, but Duryodhana has put a choke in that burning ghee. And now that 5 arrows has been taken by Arjuna. So imagine what is the valor of Bhishma Pitama, because Bhishma Pitama had come for the experiencing Veer Ras. He wanted to give the pleasure of Veer Ras. So next day, that time Bhishma Pitama takes a vow that either one of the Pandavas I'll kill or Krishna will break the vow. Krishna will break his vow of not lifting the weapon. And when next day when sun rises and the conches are born and then when the fierce battle happens, everybody is like targeting Krishna and Arjuna. Bhishma Pitama is like Bhishma Pitama and Arjuna. It's a combat between them. And Mahabharata describes elaborately the fight. And Bhishma Pitama becomes such ferocious fighter that he breaks the chariot wheel of Krishna and Arjuna. Krishna was riding the horses, the chariot wheel is broken. And the arrows come like showers of rain. And Arjuna is not able to combat anything. And that time, Krishna thinks, now this is more than enough. Because Krishna is like a Bhaktavatsal. He has to protect Arjuna on one hand, and he has to protect the word of Bhishma on the other hand. Protect the life of all the 5 Pandavas on one hand, and he also has a devotee. Bhishma is a devotee of Krishna. Therefore, Krishna has to protect his vow also. That either he will kill all of the Pandavas or he will break his vow. So he wanted to protect the Pandavas and he wanted to keep the word of Bhishma. And what is that combination. Okay, I'll protect the Pandavas, but I'll break my vow of not lifting the weapon. And he lifts the weapon. And therefore, mention the Vishwanath Chakravarti, Sukadeva Goswami mentions there that like a lion approaches elephant, Bhishma Pitama is compared to an elephant, and Lord Krishna is compared to like a lion. Another example is given when a farmer is putting this hull with the bull to till the paddy. So similarly, Krishna was running so ferociously towards Bhishma Pitama to kill him with his broken wheel chariot, because he wanted to lift some weapon, but he had not brought any of his weapon because he had left everything there in Dwarka, and because the condition was that he will not lift any weapon. Therefore, what is a broken chariot wheel there, and he lifts that up with his hand and is charging towards Bhishma Pitama to hit him. And meanwhile, Arjuna puts his whole leg inside the mud to stop him, and his leg goes almost 1-2 feet inside, and after still Krishna doesn't stop. And Bhishma Pitama with his open arms is facing Krishna and Arjuna is inside his half leg is inside the mud. And meanwhile, in the description, if you see in Bhagavatam, when Bhishma Pitama is charging towards Arjuna, those arrows of Bhishma Pitama, they cut the bodies of Krishna. They pierce through the body of Krishna. And apparently, Krishna exhibits blood there. For what? For the pastime's sake, for the pleasure of Bhishma Pitama, to give him enthusiasm to fight, because that is what Bhishma Pitama wanted. So therefore, question regarding whether Lord has veins, Lord has not veins, Lord will use it according to his omnipotency for the pleasure of his devotees. Okay. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that when the lover and beloved, when they are together, sometimes they may embrace each other, and they may have a very romantic pastime, but sometimes the peak of enjoyment, a lover and beloved may bite also each other's body. So that is the comparison Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur used there. And this is a loving pastime of the Lord. All the mundane analogies we can project on the Lord and can understand how Lord is completely Akayam, Shukram, omnipotent, Paribhu. So he can fulfill any of the desires of all the living entities without giving up his inconceivable potency of the Lord. So this is understanding which you can understand from the Acharya's commentaries. Okay, Prabhu?
Thank you for the elaborate answer. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, can you hear me?
Yes, Mataji, please tell.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. I had one question about one phrase that you used, that Jivatma desires, Prakriti facilitates, and Lord sanctions. So here are we talking about the generic grouping of the desire, that whether a Jivatma's desire is to go for spiritual progress and ultimately to the devotional service of the Lord, or stay entangled in the material world. Is that the groupism, or is it every desire that we do? Because we have seen that most of our desires don't get fulfilled. We may desire with a lot of strength, but they don't get fulfilled, or not everything gets fulfilled. So here are we talking about the generic desire in terms of spiritual and material, or are we talking about every desire that a human thinks of?
Yes, Mataji, I understood your question. Your question is, only when we accept Krishna consciousness, we take bhakti, or when we don't accept Krishna consciousness, our path is towards ignorance. Only that is fulfilled, or everything we desire, that is fulfilled. The condition is, two things are there. One thing is we desire. Everyone desires. In class, 60-70 students are there. Everyone desires that I should get a first rank. But they should deserve also. So desire should be accompanied by deserving. So Prabhupada, in the analogy, if you read carefully, Prabhupada says that a person may want to become a high court judge. He may crack an exam also to become a high court judge, but there should be a sanctioning authority, that is sanctioner. And the Prakriti is facilitator. Prakriti facilitates based on what we may desire. That facilitation of Prakriti is based on whether we deserve it or we don't deserve it. Like a poor person, he wants to eat gulab jamun. He may desire, but he is working hard to earn money, to get some money at the end of the day and bring some koa or gulab jamun packet and purchase a ghee and make the rolls of it and fry it in ghee and then make a sugar syrup. Does he has that much money? No. Then because of his past karma, he is not rich enough. So therefore, Deserve comes from previous actions, previous lives, upbringing, our present actions, what we are doing, how much we are responsible. So to some extent we can deserve. So desire and deserve. So desire is from Jivatma. So whether we deserve or not, that is based on that Prakriti facilitates. And then whether we deserve or not, Prakriti facilitates and Paramatma sanctions. So the second part is deserve, we should deserve. Prabhupada is making a point here, even if you desire, even if you deserve, that much is not enough, but there has to be sanctioner. That is the topmost. Therefore, Lord has to sanction. So Lord sanctions based on our desire and based on our deserve. So whether we are eligible or not, that is the meaning of deserve. So we may express that I want this, but our eligibility is a criteria for that fulfillment.
Doing the filtering action and choosing whether we deserve based on our past karmas. It's not like whatever passes through that is sanctioned. Not everything is sanctioned by the Lord, right? Is
yes.
Lord also filtering us, or it's only Prakriti which is filtering us?
Lord filters us, because Prakriti is just facilitating. It is completely under the Lord. Maya Dakshina Prakriti.
Got it.
But because of Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, the same question, this one. Sometimes we don't expect anything and we don't desire, okay, but we will get those many things. So it's based on our past karmas, or how it comes basically.
Prabhuji, your question once again.
Sometimes Prabhuji, we don't desire anything, okay, and we get something good. Even we don't desire that one. So how it happens? Because of past karma?
Yeah, destiny. Because you're destined to get it.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Okay. If you are supposed to get it, even if you don't desire, you will get it. But you're supposed to get something. When you express some desire, you'll get something when you desire also. That is a thing which you have to add to that karma to get that thing. You have to do the chesta. Desire is like the chesta bala, and some things you would get without chesta. Okay.
That is mercy, Prabhuji, right? Yes.
We cannot call it as mercy. Why? Because if it is Krishna conscious, you are getting something, then it is mercy. But if it is material, then it is just because of your karma you are getting something.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Okay, it's almost 8 o'clock now. We have just completed mantra 7, mantra 8. At least you have completed first and second section. And today is, I think, Wednesday. If any one of you have any other questions to ask, I think we can take questions only now for 1-2 minutes. Otherwise, we'll end now because we could only successfully complete mantra 8. We completed 2 sections now. And regarding the open book assignment, I will just see the how many questions you have for the open book assignments?
No, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, in NOI we got 2 actually. So we don't know if that is the pattern for every unit.
Okay, how many you have in this Ishopanishad? How many questions are there in the booklet?
3 questions.
3 are there. Okay.
In NOI we had 8, and out of that 2 were given.
Okay, how many questions you had in NOI?
8 questions were given in the booklet, but we had 2 questions which.
Okay, 3 were there. Out of 3, you had 2.
So in NOI it was 8,
Okay.
and we were given 2. In Ishopanishad there are 3 in the booklet, and we need to know whether it is 3 or 2 that we need to write.
Okay. We can write 2.
In open book we have 2 only, na? 9th or 10th.
I have to see the
question
soft
only.
copy. Yes,
And
I'll see.
another thing is that it's not a choice that was given. Like out of 8, you write any 2. It was not like that. 2 specific questions were given, and everybody had to write the same question ka answers. So in Ishopanishad also, we just want to know whether it is a choice that you are making, which 2 questions we need to write, or we have a choice which 2 we want to answer.
Okay. I'll just go through it. Okay, I'll send this mail to our Subburao Prabhu. He will send in the WhatsApp. I'll send it today night. Which are the questions? Okay, so that others don't have to wait. And already it's 8:05. So I'll send in. Okay, Prabhuji, Subburao Prabhuji, I'll send you the mail. I'll call and tell you which are the questions. Hare Krishna. We'll meet again on Friday. And what about the one pending session which we have missed on Ganesh Chaturthi?
What do you suggest, Prabhu? You want to do it today? Not this.
Okay, we'll take a call on Friday.
Okay.
If it is on available, Saturday is open, then we'll take call on Friday. Okay. Hare Krishna. Shri Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Jai. Gaur Bhakti ki
Jai.
Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki Jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Dandak Pranam.
Hare Krishna.